The movie begins with a girl named Lee, who we meet at a psychiatrist's office. Right away, we learn that Lee isn't like everyone else. She has the ability to see monsters living on Earth. While talking to the doctor, she notices a tiny creature crawling on his arm, scratching him. She stays quiet, afraid he'll think she's crazy. A moment later, when the doctor sees the cut, Lee quickly covers it up by saying he must have nicked himself with the paper he was holding. Lee leaves the office feeling heartbroken. She can't talk to anyone about what she sees, not even her own mother, who, after learning about Lee's visions, chose to distance herself. Later, Lee heads to her job at the supermarket. She hears a strange noise, but brushes it off and keeps working. Soon after, her manager yells at her for being too slow and hands her a stack of flyers to give out, threatening her job if she refuses. While passing out flyers, Lee meets a man named Meng. She tries to give him one, but he refuses, telling her he's too busy and on an important mission. Intrigued, Lee follows him and is shocked to find her friends lying on the ground, frozen stiff. Meng reveals he's a monster hunter and that a creature is behind what happened to her friends. Using a magical talisman, Meng tracks the monster and together they find it asleep. Terrified, Lee insists they should call the police. Meng mocks Lee, telling her that if she calls the police, they'll just think she's insane and probably arrest her. Because, as far as the world knows, monsters don't exist. They're nothing but myths and fantasies. Suddenly, the power goes out. Meng panics, realizing that the monster they tracked only sleeps in the cold, and with the air conditioning shut off, it could wake up any second. He quickly draws a magic symbol on the floor, hoping to trap it. Meanwhile, Lee rushes to check on her friends. She's relieved when the ice covering them begins to melt, and they slowly come back to life. Excited, she runs to get Meng's help, but right then, the monster wakes up. They try to escape, but it chases them, tearing through the supermarket in the process. Thinking fast, Meng writes a spell on a piece of paper to freeze the monster in place. Just as he's about to be killed, the magic paper bursts to life and saves him at the very last second. The monster then turns its attention to Lee. It accidentally steps on the magic symbol, and Meng cheers, believing he's trapped it. But the creature proves too strong, breaking free. It charges at them again, and Meng leaps forward, casting another spell that finally subdues it. That's when we learn monsters can't actually be killed. They're sealed inside small crystals that send them back to their own world. Meng takes the crystal to leave, but it slips from his hand. Lee spots it and decides to keep it for herself. Meanwhile, Meng's magical paper charm starts scolding him, furious that he destroyed the supermarket and abandoned Lee. He brushes it off, changes the subject, and tells the charm to call the dealer, so he can sell the crystal for cash. We then discover Meng hunts monsters, seals them into crystals, and sells them for huge sums of money. At the same time, Lee returns home, only to find a lock on her front door. Lee's landlord comes out to talk to her, showing her the news reports that blame her for destroying the supermarket. The story claims she caused it because of arguments with her manager. He tells her to pack up her things and leave immediately. Lee is crushed, with nowhere to go. She tries calling her mom, but her mother doesn't pick up. That memory stings. Lee remembers how her mom once yelled at her, convinced she was crazy, refusing to believe she could actually see monsters. Her mother even had her sent to a psychiatric hospital. The next day, a woman named Charlene arrives at Meng's place to collect the crystal. Meng is shocked when he realizes it's missing. Desperate, he brings out a stash of other monster crystals he's captured in the past and shows them to her. But Charlene ridicules him, furious and convinced he's trying to trick her. She tells him she'll never trust him again, calling him a failure compared to his brother, Chung, who was far better at hunting monsters. She also reveals that the missing crystal is extremely important and demands Meng retrieve it right away. Meanwhile, Lee is wandering the streets, looking for somewhere to sleep, but she doesn't realize a monster is following her. At that same moment, Meng's radar lights up with the creature's location, and he heads straight for it. Suddenly, the monster attacks Lee, trying to kill her. She runs for her life, until Meng appears just in time, defeating it at the last second. But their relief doesn't last. Another monster shows up and begins chasing them. The two race into a nearby room and lock the door, only to find themselves surrounded. Packs of terrifying creatures closing in, their appearance truly horrifying. The only way out is through a window. Meng grabs a wooden plank, lays it across to the neighboring building, and begins leading the way to safety. Suddenly, the monsters smash through the door. Lee slips off the wooden plank, nearly falling victim to the creatures. But Meng manages to save her once again. At that moment, gunshots ring out. Meng realizes other monster hunters are nearby. His face drops with fear because he's wandered into their territory. Every hunter has their own hunting zone, and killing a monster outside of yours is considered theft. The area's boss confronts Meng, mocking him and warning that if he ever steps foot in his territory again, He'll kill him. With no choice, Meng leaves. Furious and humiliated, on the way back to his car, Lee finds him and returns the crystal he dropped earlier. Grateful, Meng thanks her and offers to drive her home since it's raining, but Lee admits she doesn't have a home anymore. She's been sleeping on the streets. Touched, Meng asks about her family. She explains that when her mom discovered she could see monsters, she locked her away in a psychiatric hospital. After being released, Lee tried to live a normal life and ignore the creatures, but she failed. She tells Meng her life completely changed after meeting him, because for the first time, she's not alone. Moved by her story, Meng decides to help her and takes her in. The next day, we meet Xin, the ruthless leader who buys crystals from hunters. She desperately wants the crystal Meng lost, no matter the cost. She contacts a dangerous criminal named Hong, hiring him to track it down. Xin suspects either Meng or Lee has it, since they were the ones who took down the monster. She even shows Hong a picture of Lee, warning him that Lee's powers are growing stronger every day, and orders him to bring the girl to her alive. That's when the shocking truth drops. Lee has hidden supernatural abilities she doesn't even know about. Hong agrees to the job, but only if Xin gives him Cheng's crystal in return. We learn that Cheng was once a legendary hunter. When he died, his power was sealed inside a crystal. Anyone who finds a hunter's crystal can absorb their strength just by touching it. Meanwhile, Meng takes Lee to meet his father, Wang. To her surprise, Wang already knows everything about her. He leads them into an underground chamber, where Lee is stunned to see his true form. Half lion, half man. Wang explains that humans and monsters come from separate worlds, and sometimes creatures accidentally cross over into ours. When that happens, it's the hunter's job to trap them in crystals and send them back to where they belong. Wang tells Lee that from the moment she was born, she's had a special connection with monsters, chosen by fate, able to see them because she was meant to be different. He explains that in 3 days, the gateway to the monster world will open. When it does, Lee will awaken a great power and become the new guardian of the gate. But there's a problem. Xin, the ruthless crime boss, is the current guardian. She'll do anything to eliminate Lee so she doesn't lose her title and power. To protect her, Wang assigns some of the strongest hunters to guard Lee. Before she leaves, he gives her 2 magical talismans. One of them can be activated with someone she truly trusts. It will let that person help her when she's in danger. Lee immediately uses it on Meng, the only person she feels safe with. Wang then asks Meng to escort Lee home and use protective magic so no one can harm her. Meng agrees, driving her back in his car. But on the road, something strange happens. No matter which way he turns, he keeps passing the same spot again and again. Suddenly, a chain wraps around his neck, choking him. He realizes someone has cast a looping curse, trapping them in a space they can't escape. Just then, the magic paper charm springs to life, breaking the curse. A massive monster appears and nearly crushes them, but the spell wears off, and the creature vanishes. At that moment, Hong ambushes them, demanding Lee. He shoots at Meng, forcing him to flee with her. They finally make it to Meng's house. He casts a powerful spell called the Den, which makes the house disappear as if it never existed. The paper charm transforms into a door, acting as a lookout to guard the place. The next morning, Lee wakes to find protective charms laid beside her. Confused, she asks about them, and the paper charm explains she had been plagued by nightmares, and Meng stayed by her side, calming her down. Lee is touched to realize how much Meng cares for her. Later, they share a meal together, and Meng opens up about his brother Cheng. He admits he always wanted to be as strong as him, but instead feels like nothing more than a failure. Afterward, Lee absent-mindedly plays with a crystal containing a captured monster. It slips from her hands into water. The paper charm panics. If water touches a crystal, the monster can return to its original form. But instead of being afraid, Lee reaches out and touches it. Sensing it's gentle, she wants to keep it with them. Meng, however, quickly casts a spell to force the creature back into the crystal. Meanwhile, Xin arrives at Wang's hideout and demands to know where Lee is. Wang refuses, knowing she has dark intentions. Furious, Xin paralyzes him with a spell and leaves. Soon after, Lee receives a call from a hospital worker. Her mother is dying and wants to see her one last time. The message shatters Lee. She learns her mom does love her after all and doesn't hate her the way she thought. But leaving Meng's hidden house would break the protective spell. At that moment, Xin discovers her location, but Lei has no choice. She needs to check on her mother. In desperation, she accidentally summons a monster called the Labyrinth and begs it to take her to the hospital as fast as possible. Ming decides to go with her to protect her. When they arrive, Lei rushes to see her mother, overwhelmed with how much she's missed her. Suddenly, Xin appears from behind. It turns out she had cast a spell on Lei's mom to make her sick and end up in the hospital. Her way of luring Lei into a trap. Lei snaps, losing control, and unleashes chaos in the hospital. Shin threatens to kill her mother unless Lei transfers her powers. Lei refuses. Meanwhile, Ming is searching for her inside the hospital when Hong ambushes him from behind, using a spell to sever Ming's arm before walking away. The ashes of Ming's severed arm fly to Wang, his father, asking for help. Back at the gates, Shin drags Lei to begin the ritual of power transfer. Wang saves Ming, but Ming blames himself for failing to protect Lei, calling himself a failure. Wang summons the labyrinth monster and tells Ming he must find the courage to save her. He also forges him a magical arm so he can fight again. When Ming arrives at the gate, Hong blocks his path. They clash, but Hong is far stronger. Then Ming spots his brother's crystal and dashes toward it. Just as Hong snatches it, thinking he has won his brother's power, Ming reveals he had tricked him. He had drawn a summoning circle to trap Hong. The spell activates, and Ming finally destroys him. But the gate bursts open, and terrifying monsters flood into the human world, slaughtering hunters with ease. Ming rushes to find Lei, only to see her unconscious. As he checks on her, Shin appears, unleashing her power and nearly finishing him. At the last moment, Lei awakens, channels her strength, and defeats Shin effortlessly, turning her into a crystal. She seals the gate, cutting off the monster's invasion. After the battle, Lei confronts the monster, sealed in the crystal, learning to control it. Overjoyed, she finally masters her powers and saves Earth from destruction. Later, Lei lives peacefully with her mother, Ming, and Wang. They're all happy and proud of her, and that's the film ends.